Hi guys! Of course you would. Hold on. Such a troll, that cat. Hold on. There you go. Eh? Hey guys! Let me know if you can hear and see me and see the cat. She always looks super grumpy, that one. Need to break everything apparently. He's good. Maybe. Ben oui, je sais. Hi guys, hi Tsukaboo and Lise and Gary and Dan, Mikey and Maureen, Sun, and I saw Otto up there. Otto! I'm sorry I don't have any Pico because I went to pick her up and she had already settled down. And she looked at me with that face, the expression of like, Mom, please don't bother me. And I was like, aww. I will bother her later though. I will get her for the end of the live stream possibly. Okay, so hey Stacy. Yeah. It would have been rude to bother Pico. But I will bother her later though, because you guys need a bit of Pico, right? You got meow! Oh, I love it. Oh, that's adorable. Alright, I have a postcard today to show. I got a postcard in the PO box. It's not a silly one, it's not a weird one, it's a cute one actually. It's a cute black cat. And it came from Lena. So thank you so much, Lena, for the cute card. Yep, wash that bum, Pico, Scout. Be the tortie you were meant to be. So yep, that's the latest addition to my collection. Thank you so much, Lena. What else? Oh, I'm gonna go pick it up. Hold on. Let's not get tangled into everything. I'm gonna kill myself. Hold on. Okay, let's do that in reverse. Up. There you go. Alright. So, for a bit of context, my aunt was a watercolorist, an amateur, of course, because yeah, it was more like a hobby for her. But she did some pretty nice paintings, and she was able to sell them, no problem. Do I still have? I know I found a few of her sketches while digging around, but anyway. So yeah, and sadly she passed. And since I'm the only sort of artistic type in our family, I ended up with all of her supplies, including a bunch of books. So I know there are books in French because my aunt was completely French Canadian. And yeah, so I got amongst the book she sort of gave me in a way. There is this one. It was sold for like $80 back then. So I'm like, what? And it's a book from 1984. I'll see inside if it's if they say what's the name in English. It's by Jose M. Paramon. Original edition is El Gran Libro de la Acuarela. So, not a clue what that's like in English. Yeah, $80. Well, I don't know if she bought it in the 80s though, because this book has been around for a while. There is no date on like the price tag, but it was $77 and $95. And it's not like an insanely thick book. It's like, what, an inch at best? Yeah, not quite an inch thick. But hold on. The really interesting thing is inside. The guy recommends schminke paints and a bunch of paper that I've never heard of. So that's what I like of like super. I mean, this book is about as old as I am, so yeah, whatever. But there is so much weird stuff in there, like brands of paper I've never heard of, like Guaro and Schouler Parole and Whatman. And like, what? It was called Kenson and Montgolfier. I'm like, what? What is this? And what else I saw that was really funny? Yeah, at some point he names the sizes of paper, and this is in French, so I'm gonna translate because it's kind of funny. But it's like grape size, 50 by 65, Jesus size, and Grand Eagle size. I'm like, what are those? What? That's 80 Canadian dollars. She was my great aunt. She was my dad's aunt. Okay, hold on. Up. Hold on. Let me set this up properly. How about that? Okay, that's better. Okay. So it has all these weird sizes and brands. And for another thing that made me laugh is like there's all this part about the history of watercolor at first, and then the first real part you get into is like the watercolorist studio. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. It's so unaffordable. It's like, it's like, who has the money for this? Seriously. It's like, oh, the lighting, and you need like an actual light source, and you need other sources of light, like a neon and a spot, and there's like all this space. And the guy has a vinyl player. I like to play vinyls. And there's like the chair and all this stuff, and then you have like, oh, the drawing tables and the flat files, and I'm like, dude. Oh, have a leather chair, really comfy. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna have that cheap chair from IKEA, you know. So those are easels, and then the papers, and then that was the part that was really like striking to me. It's old schminke stuff. So yeah, those are like the cheaper. I've seen Jesus format. That's really funny. Well, you have the schminke pans, but here we have like old model of schminke. The tubes are not like that anymore, but the pans are pretty much the same. So the pans haven't really changed in like 35 years. And then you have like liquid watercolor. Never seen that from schminke. But then you have this palette. I mean, look at it. How cool is it? I think the guy possibly just put the pans up there. Like, these look to be regular half pans, but they're in a palette that has enough room so it will close with the half pans in it, and it doesn't seem to be plastic too, it seems to be metal. So, and they have this palette here, and I'm like, whoa! Yeah, I get excited when I see palettes too. That's why I thought I would possibly show this on stream. Then there was this old schminke chart, but sadly there is no pigment information on this. And that made me so bummed out, because I know that someone recently had question concerning old schminke paints on the Discord server, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool if there was the pigment info. No pigment info. But I had a great laugh at the French names of some of these colors, because it's pretty much nonsense. And then, right, pigments, I think. Is it pigments or is it like liquid stuff? Gouache. I don't know. I've never seen these pots from Schminke. That's the gouache. And then you have like more old sets. And I saw that one and I was like, Winsor & Newton needs to bring this back. I want this. I want this set. Well, I want this specific set back when the paints were done in the UK, possibly. And then you have like a sort of a kid's set. Still haven't seen that. Full pans, like old logo, and that's Rembrandt. And then there's a bunch of stuff too, like brushes, and basically it's a really interesting book, but in my opinion it's also kind of useless because look, more palette. But here, that's an old, it says paint box, special model, and a classic one for oil. This is one for oil, but this one is for watercolor. Looks like it has a ceramic sort of mixing area and 3 like shallow dishes here, a brush, a bunch of pans, half pans, one full pan that is probably the Auxgall. So I was like, whoa! And yeah, and then there's like a bunch of supposedly helpful tips, but doubtful, because I mean, I don't feel like any of this stuff really helps. Oh, that's the other fun stuff I wanted to show. But I don't feel like any of these lessons, they really help you, because the teachers, they often don't put themselves in the shoes of someone who begins. They have all these fancy supplies, all the fancy brushes, the fancy paper, the fancy paints, and they go like, do this and do that. And when you're a beginner, you really have no notion of, like, you have no familiarity with any of this stuff. So it's kind of unpleasant to start. Okay, but the most, I know other people are going to appreciate that. It's more like a catalog. I agree. Yeah, drawing is the base of watercolor paintings. I doubt that. But look at this! It has a primary wheel and it states that freaking magenta is a primary color. No red, yellow, and blue BS in this book, and I was like, whoa! Okay, they mistranslated magenta as purple. They called it pourpre, and that's basically purple, and that's purple, that's magenta. Come on, guys. But they still have the proper color there. Like, that's the freaking primary, and the primary, and the primary, and they're the right ones, and I was like, awesome. I was so happy. Yeah, exactly. This book just went up in my books. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, fancy pants, pricey stuff, blah blah blah, but at least they don't mess up the really important color theory part. Basically says that primary colors are yellow, cyan, and magenta, and secondary colors are green, red, and blue. And then the tertiary colors are whatever is left. It must be really old. It hasn't modernized using art. Yeah, that's what but I was so happy to see that, because I was like, well, at least, good grief. I mean, if it had been red, yellow, and blue in there, I would have been so disheartened. I was like, oh my gosh, how can you be a painter with all this fancy stuff and still believe that red is something you can't mix? I mean, what? Okay, and the rest of it, I mean, the guy is a really good painter, but I feel like, I don't know, it's not the kind of content that I can relate to. For myself, painting like still life is really not, it's really difficult. I don't, you gotta squint. But yeah, so there's a bit of everything in there, and I kind of went through the rest of it rather fast, because I was like, it's not exactly helpful, because this guy is already an accomplished painter, and he doesn't really make any effort to step in the shoes of someone who has like perhaps 1 or 2 good brush and a few sheets of paper. You know, when you've just bought paper and it costs you like a fortune in good paper, and a book says to use a half imperial sheet to paint gradients and like washes, it's really, really difficult, I find, to commit to that, because I mean, your only impression of this stuff is that you just paid like $30 for 3 sheets of paper, and you kind of don't want to waste it on things that are important for sure, but at a beginner level, I don't think anyone knows quite how important they are. Yeah, still life is rather bland. Really struggle with it. It would have to be still life of something a bit more interesting. Anyway, so that's that. Sorry. It silently triggered Dr. Otto. I think so. Oh, that's true. Guys, I don't know if she will hate me for that, but it's Otto's birthday this week. So, happy birthday, Otto! Happy birthday, Otto! Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, Otto! I forgot to grab my phone. Anyway, alright, so show and tell is over. I mean, I have more books in French, or perhaps I will have other show and tells for future live streams. Like either things that are terribly bad or things that are terribly good, but I'm trying to make more use of all the books I have, because I have quite an shows more French book. You want to see more French book today, or because I don't really have a plan of what to draw today, so I could ask Otto about what to draw since it was her birthday this week, but that might be putting her on the spot. Show us book. Okay, right. I'm gonna have to show you my butt first, because I have to cross over here. I have a bunch of books. And we went to the library yesterday and I saw more. I saw one I was really interested in getting, but it was like super pricey. And I was like, do I, don't I? I'm like, you already have 1 million books that you don't use. How about you sort of use your books more? And I'm like, yeah, but I really love books. Alright, so I grabbed sort of all the books in French I could see. A bunch of books. Kitty cat. Painting a boring half-elf. That shouldn't be boring, right? That should be fun. Yeah, that's kind of the same. I agree. Otto says I've always overbought books and hoped that I can just learn from osmosis. Yeah, I think I do that too. Well, these were, I don't think I bought any of these. I think these were all my aunt's book, my great aunt's book. But I tend to look at them a lot, and yeah, and I look, and I'm like, this is so pretty, but it's a kind of stress too, because I don't really paint that way. So it's kind of weird to to purchase these books, but because you're like, well, I look at it, but ultimately, is anything in there is gonna be helpful to me, because this is not the kind of inclination I have. Anyway, blah 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 blah. So, cute note. This is from my nephew Eve. Eve, not Ev, not my name, but said in English. This is YVES, and it's my uncle actually. So my uncle gave this to my great aunt in 2000. I think if this is the one I'm thinking of, it has one of my favorite painters in there. This one is basically kind of a I have never slept with a textbook under my pillow. Maybe I should try with the watercolor books, right? But basically this book presents kind of a problematic painting as an expose, and then ways to fix it, or like the problem, the solution, and there's like an example from a an accomplished painter. So this one is about how to avoid cauliflowers, and then you have a sky without any color. You know, you get the idea. That's my favorite painter, Stan Pirat. Otto's in that book. Well, Otto is one of my favorite painters, so maybe one day. But I saw this guy's work in this book, and I've never seen anything else from him, but every painting of him in his book is really, really nice. It's really moody, so that's one of them. This is another one of them. Really looks like the problematic one was like copied from this one. But it's a really, really good painter, and this is from him too. And I've never seen any art book from him or anything, so that's possibly why I hold on to this book, because it's the only examples of his work that I have. So it's an interesting book. I feel like this is possibly more relatable than the one I showed before. Oh, hey Lee! So nice to see you. We were looking at the weird French books today. I remember one of these examples, like of the problematic painting being, I mean, sometimes it's really funny because like this is not even quite the same style as this. This is like super realistic, and this is like less realistic, and you're like, well, sure, how to paint skin tone, this is gonna help you, but at the same time, this person possibly needs to just practice drawing a bit more to refine their own style first, and also learn by doing it. You know, you have to do so many bad paintings before you feel comfortable doing good ones. So there's a lot of David Bellamy also in this book. It's quite good. I kind of preferred this guy personally. Okay. You prefer the problem portraits? This lady here. Well, it's a really different approach. So I'm like, sometimes I see like the problem stuff like, well, this is not exactly, this is such a different style than this. I mean, what? Well, not everything, this is not problematic. These are good examples. Kind of like this one. This is, I mean, this is not a problem that the gray itself, it says how to make grays more interesting, but it's not a problem that the gray is not interesting. It's just that it's quite an even application of the same gray all over. If it had more like variations, like more of the blue in some areas, and I mean, yeah, so it's just weird. But like I said, I keep this book because of the pretty paintings in it. Yeah, that's right. Otto says, yeah, it's just stylized. That's not a problem and fixed. That's one style, and someone telling you to do it in another. Yeah, that sounds a lot like, you know, teachers. Another Stan Pirat here. Oh my god, this is funny. I think these books, I might have a similar one from the same lady, Angela Gare, in English. But the translation of the problems is really hilarious. This landscape was splendid, but my representation totally lacks character. Like, you know what, this is really kind of not that bad. I mean, it's not moody, but perhaps you weren't painting something moody. Hey, Firecloud, hi! So yeah, it's a bit hit and miss. This is another one from the guy I like. So yeah, that's kind of a weird book because I don't really learn. Anyway, some of these are just sad, but it's kind of really funny. Another Stan Perrault. I really like that guy. I tried googling his name and like there's hardly anything that comes up. Like, this is a weird, problematic painting. It really looks like someone drew that from memory rather than from reference, because it is way too weird. So yeah, that's basically this book. Difficult subjects. But that's another one. Like, that's the same thing. That's so different from this one. This is really not the same kind of approach. So it's like, well, the problems, personally, like as someone who went to school for drawing, animation and humans and stuff, like I see some issues perhaps with this drawing, but it could be done in the same style and fixing the issues, and it would work better. It's not necessarily because it's this specific style that it's problematic. And like, to me, this is also problematic in the sense that the skin tone on the lady, she looks kind of hypothermic. And yeah, I have a crush. It's a fairly old man, possibly dead. I mean, what can you do? Hey, Grouchy! Good one. Grouchy says, there is no such thing... Let me start over. There is no such thing as problematic paintings. If your painting doesn't turn out, just start eating it and call it performance art. Yep. Or you can do like what Marty did with the paper and like roll over it, put ketchup on it, microwave it, wash it, dry it, iron it. Yeah, all this stuff. So yeah, this is a kind of a weird, it's a bit clumsy in many ways, but I can relate to this one though. My foliage is always a disaster. There's so much details, and I agree that foliage is really hard to paint because it's a tough exercise to try and encompass all this. Oh, kitty! All this detail. Yeah, sketching beforehand is a good idea, and I mean the human, like, there were perhaps I don't want to say mistakes because nothing is ever truly a bad idea, but there were many ways in which you could draw the figure a bit differently. Like, usually when you draw things centered, like a full-on view, that's not the most dynamic composition ever. And you can use that to paint like say you want to paint some royalty. Well, you can use that kind of pose. It's gonna lend them a lot of weight, and they will feel like a bit like statues. But if you want something to look more organic, you gotta work on many aspects. Anyway, so come on, guys. I mean, it's a style of water, but it's just so different, and it kind of looked like it was done on purpose because nothing in there has a similar style. But you know, you get the idea. Possibly weird book, but there's always a bit of good. Like here you have how to make textures, and it's a bunch of good tips. Like this says sedimentary colors, texture on more rough paper. You can scratch. You can use. You can spray masking fluid. You can use wax. You can use salt. Composition breaks miniature painting, and it can make miniature painting too. Like if you have an interesting composition, that might be enough to cover for other things you feel less comfortable painting. This one is by Stan Smith. I have a feeling we mentioned this guy recently in the see if that's my great aunt's name in there. All right. Let me know if you guys are fed up with the books and you want me to do something actually helpful. Let's go quickly through this. I'm always interested to see what kind of supplies you recommend. I'll say this one is all about Winsor & Newton. That's some fairly old tubes, right? That's like even before like not the current model, not the one before that, but the one before that. I love how they try to hide the brand sometime, like, well, I can still tell this is the Caturday colors. Yeah, I'm seeing RGB. I think this one is very RGB-esque. Brushes. Wow, a drawing bench. What do you know? Bunch of stuff. Ugh. Dude, where's the magenta, you guys? You need magenta in there. How to hold the brush. Oh, that's not a paint. That doesn't look like an actual painting. It looks like a, I think it was a birthday card and it got cut off. I have many of these books and I really struggle to learn from them. My approach has always been to just grab the stuff and mess with it, and you make a bunch of mistakes and you learn from that. So yeah, I kind of feel like, well, I mean, this is not necessarily good or bad, it's just like, what if I don't really paint that way? How am I supposed to incorporate this stuff with what I do? I don't want to paint the freaking what the hell is this thing? Cabbage. I don't want to paint cabbage. No, thank you. I think that is a problem too, I agree. Atta says, honestly, I did a book haul video and I had to cut out a 15-minute rant. I am really bummed that you cut it out. I would have listened to that and agreed so much. But yeah, I had to cut out the 15 minutes rant because the women had red, yellow and blue as primary. It is problematic because, I mean, where did they get this idea that you can't mix red? What? Have they played with paint? What about being unable to mix? Ew, ew. Oh, no, I can't do these. I'm not a mask person. Ugh. No, thank you. There's a bunch of like the way they present these tools and techniques, it feels very, very artsy craftsy, and I'm like, well, this is not exactly my approach. So it's difficult for me to understand how they, like, this basically says cover your whole surface with water soluble black ink, and then you use bleach to clear out areas. And I'm like, yeah, but why? I don't bunch of stuff. I don't know. Oh. Okay. Oh yeah, that was for the kitty cats. Kitty cats. So, blee. Oh, that. Oh my gosh. Can you look any more bored? Help! I'm caught in this 80s red goat. I'm stuck in here forever. It's a nice painting though. It's just kind of a weird reference. I'm like, well, why do you want to paint that? What's the appeal of this? This book is from 95. Original title in English, The Complete Watercolor Course by Stan Smith. Like, that's one of my struggles, is that I feel like whatever I paint has to bring something new to the equation, and it really, anyway, I don't want to get into too much of it. Anyway. Alright. What is this one? Oh no. Oh no. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't quite know what's the actual... Honestly, art books are mainly used for ideas, not to learn painting. That's a fair point. Seems like a lot of work when you can just paint the objects and fill in a black background. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I am a bit weird in the sense that I don't really like everything that is kind of destructive. I would never use bleach for painting. I know a lot of people do it, and it's some really nice results, but I feel weird using that because I'm like, how does it affect the paint? How does it affect the paper? Is it archival? It's gonna mess up the brushes, and I just, well, if you need something that sort of destroys the nature of watercolor, perhaps that was not the medium you should have gone for first. Does that make sense? Like, sometimes I see some techniques in this book where they go really some super far length to create stuff, and I'm like, well, if you have to go through all of this to get the end result, wasn't there any more appropriate way to your method that you could have found? Because watercolor on its own, it's a valid medium, it's a valid look, it's a texture, it's everything. So why do you start from that and sort of go 12 steps beyond? Anyway. And it's another book that has like red as a primary, it would seem. I don't know quite why I have this one. Might distash it. Oh, a kitty cat. that might be why. Yeah. Why do I have this book? I might declutter that one. This one is quite cool. From what I remember, I've found a couple of copies of this one in various used book stores, and I know I've given a couple of them. This is the one my great aunt had, so I kept it, but I found copies of this one for like $2. And from what I remember, it was good enough that I bought it for friends who could read French. Why fight against your medium? Exactly. You said in one line what I was trying to say. It's like, I know that watercolor was not always considered a valid art form, but today it is. So, like when I see really things, not things like using masking fluid or salt or all of that, because that doesn't really modify the way, like it sort of works with the characteristics of the watercolor. But bleach, I mean, why use bleach? Mask it. Take out the masking fluid. What? Oh no. Well, I didn't keep this one for the colors, right? For the primary color. Because it says that red is a primary color and red is crummy. Landscapes. It has some pretty nice landscapes, I think. See, masking. Masking is good. Yeah, there are some nice texture in there. That's kind of a... There's a lot of painting by John Blockley. Double triggered. Oh yeah, a book format that really doesn't work is watercolor books printed in black and white. I think I have a few of those, like older books. And it's just so silly. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, unless they're showing like black and white techniques or whatnot, it's like, well, this is pretty useless. Well, at least in this one, you have some Zoltan Sabo in there. I don't know how to say his name, so. But I feel like this one is possibly more banking on the unique characteristics of watercolor rather than being like, you know, it's a bit like when you get when you go vegan and you see all these fake foods that are trying to be like non-vegan food, like some are really terrible. And like, instead of calling this just like cheese, find another name for it. Call it some kind of pate or whatever. But like, if you want to use watercolor with a whole lot of transformation and degradation and bleach and put some dish soap in there and I don't know what, well, call it something else. Call it mixed media or whatnot, because it really doesn't make the best of watercolor. Hey Soseki, hi. Oh, that's kind of cool though. Soseki says, honestly, I've been less keen on being super archival after people found a painting of Van Gogh's. The was at Auvers. His sky has deteriorated from a sky blue to a pink. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing though. Yeah, the older book got it right, and then in the 90s, I don't know what, but mix your red and your red together to make green. Is color washed out? Well, I kind of like the idea of a salmon pink sky, but I mean, if you remember back then, like they had alizarin crimson, and they would use gamboge, and they would use Prussian blue, and all these colors. They are not light fast. They fade, they darken, they do. Well, this book is really pretty. These paintings are nice. But yeah, so I mean, besides, how many of us are gonna be in museums, you know? I mean, I'm just realistic. If you end up in a museum, that's really awesome, and I will be super happy for you. But I'm just trying to be realistic, and I know that personally I'm never gonna be in a museum, so I don't feel like we got a lot of things wrong in the 90s. Hard books broke in the 90s. Alright, oh my gosh, what is this one about flowers? I don't think I've looked through this one, so I really hope it's not terrifying like the other ones. They're oh my gosh, they are advocating washing your palette directly on the water. But yeah, it's like, why do you have all these like there's, what is this one? This is oh my gosh, Garance Rose Véritable. It's like Marolade Genuine, yeah, or Madder Pink Genuine, something like that. That's still not the really, yeah, okay. Dude, how can you have a book on flowers and not have any pinks in there? Like, you need bright magenta, you need bright pink, you need colors that... Yeah, that's kind of pretty though. Yep, that's kind of, this one was $25. Hold on, Otto, I'm gonna, here, let me bring back the one that did it right. There you go, I opened it on the right page, first try. Beautiful, beautiful color wheel. I know I have a book on colors over there. Hold on. Hello, kitty cat. Where did I put it though? Nope, nope. Hold on. Today is a book club, ouch, chapter of the Caturday Livestream. I apologize if that's not your cup of tea, but it is our cup of tea though, so. Where is my book? No, not perspective, something. What is this one? Not the one I'm looking for. Oh, there it is. Could not have been more in my face than that. Hold on. Yeah. Oh my gosh, can I just put more stuff on the floor? Scout is a lady, by the way. You cannot have a cat with this coloring or the calico coloring and have it be a male unless it's a hermaphrodite, and the chances of that are really, really tiny. Because to get this coloring you need 2 X chromosomes, and males don't have 2 X chromosomes. Sorry, that's just a fun tidbit. Like, we did not name her like a name that is very feminine too, so I can understand why people who don't know might think that Scout is a dude. I tried to read drawing with the right side of the brain and I stopped reading it. So I have 2 books here. I have Color Manual for Artists Let's see, just, well, first of all, it's in black and white. This, oh, it's one of those books that has like color plates in it because it's that old, but it seems to be getting it right. Selected list of pigments. It's funny because they only have like alizarin crimson and rose madder as kind of a magenta analog. While today we have all the quinacridone, the PV19s, the PV42. I don't really know what's up with that. Kind of looks like it still counts red. Yeah, that's still counts red as a primary, but they had it right here, so I don't understand why they decided that red was a... What's up with that? And the rest is in black and white, so yeah, not so sure about that. This one though. Yeah, Maven Fox calling paints pigments. Well, at least it's like, it's not the proper term for it, but it's not necessarily wrong, if you know what I mean. Like, it bothers me less than the guy who was saying that the series number on the paints was the higher it was, the more pigment the paint had. And still, guy was still a professional painter. So okay, so this book is by Johannes Itten. He made 2 books about colors, and I kind of could only find this one. The other one is the one I would have really wanted, but it's been out of print forever, and it costs an arm and a leg. I think it was The Art of Color. Anyway, I've seen it online. I think I saw it in person once, and I was stupid and I didn't buy it. But this one is fairly easier to use. I read this when I was in graphic design, so it's been a while, but I remember it being kind of really insightful, except that it also has kind of this... I don't understand. Dude, Otto, we have to write a color book. We decidedly have to write a color book. I don't get it, because there is some magenta colors in there, so why stick to that stupid freaking red as a primary color? You know, saying red is a primary color is one thing, and saying you can't mix red is like a whole other level of what the fuckery. Sorry for the bad word. But I'm like, you can mix red. What have you been doing all this time? Have you been painting? You can absolutely mix red. We really need to write a book and kickstart it. Endprint guy referred to Itten as a crank. That's kind of funny. Pigments is the dry powder. Like, it's the color itself. It's the... Well, Otto can correct me if I'm wrong, but I always felt like pigment is like the primordial color. That's the pigment. Oh my gosh, oh no. Maureen says that they sold art supplies for years and it would drive them crazy too. Like when people would say acrylic paints were water-based. I'm like, no, they are acrylic-based. And Otto replied, I couldn't work in an art shop because I just punched those kind of people. Oh yeah, of course. Come on, Lee. I'm going to use English red. Well, you're gonna have a hard time mixing bright colors with that. I mean, you can use whichever colors you want, but you're not gonna get the results you want necessarily. And now I have so many books around me. So should I go get some other weird books, or are we moving on to something else? Yeah, I kind of like how everyone is a printer, and their printer, well, if you have a color printer, and it prints all the colors fine, yet no one connects that to the fact that it uses only cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. It could probably skip the black, it's just that it would consume so much of the other inks for that. How do you mix red? Yellow and magenta. More books but with CMI. Check it out. Aww. Well, I kind of don't know what to expect from these books, so... Alright. I have a couple kind of safer books that are not necessarily about color theory. And do I have hold on. I have these that we painted quite some time ago, and you can see that depending on the cyan that you use, you can mix kind of a red color around this part. It's not exactly, well, this is perylene red, so this is not a fair comparison, but it's much easier to get a red-ish colors by mixing magenta and yellow than to get any magenta color if you start with red. It basically can't be done. So this is not necessarily the best magenta. I don't think it works well, but there's an artist, what's her name? Can't remember her name. But she showed that by using she used PV42 for the pink, the yellow, and phthalo blue green shade, and you get a really nice red from these. Orange and magenta if you want a brighter red. That's cool. I mean, possibly the best you can do is have a split primary. So basically you have like a warm and a cool of each color, so you end up having kind of a red anyway that you can use, and you don't have to mix it all the time. But it is mixed. You can mix a red color. You cannot mix a magenta color ever. It's impossible. It is impossible. All right, this one. Oh, this one. Not this. Oh, let's grab a couple of this guy. More books. Pile of books. Oh, thanks for the link, Otto. Otto found the live stream where I painted the demos. That could be the thing. If your magenta leans pretty purple, purple and yellow, they're complementary colors, so it's gonna make for a more muted orange for sure. But if you have a bright magenta, like really, really magenta, it's gonna give you a better red. You can mix blue by it's the cyan with a tiny bit of magenta is gonna give you blue. You mixed magenta then, as if. As if. Prussian blue, English red, and genuine Aurelian. Well, you're not gonna get a lot of fans if you do that, Grouchy. People are gonna catch on to you and demand refunds. You're gonna get 1 out of 5 stars on Amazon. Oh no, Lana! I've shown your super pretty postcard you sent me. Cute kitty cat. Well, alright. This one is the Illustrator's Bible. It's supposed to be about everything. Like literally everything. What to do with your hands. Aw, I'm really glad you sent me the kitty cat. It's really cute. Yeah. It said, what, 92 for this one. I'm always interested in the older books because I went to school kind of not for arts per se, and I never really learned from people who knew what they were doing. So it's interesting to see the books and the older ways of doing stuff, because that's kind of super different. The Efficient Studio. What's this one about? I think I got this one because it covered a lot of different methods, like anything, oil, and I thought that as such a wide, broad book might be helpful. Like, say I want to try oils for a couple of paintings. Well, I would rather have a couple of tips in there and wing it for the rest than have one of those books where the person has been doing oils forever and they're like, well, you need all of this stuff, and I'm like, well, I only have 2 colors, a brush, and you know, like really basic stuff. So I think that's why I got this one. Or perhaps was it because it... Let me get to the watercolor chapter, perhaps I'll remember better then. Ugh, pastels. Blech. Blech. Sorry. Little chapter fonts. Oh yeah. The guy is ironing. Dude made an iron-on patch of canvas. And then gesso. What? Like it feels like it's a good book if you are the type of person who MacGyvers a lot. I'm the type of person who MacGyvers a lot. So I feel like where's the freaking gouache and cassine? Where? Look, 92 acrylic gouache. Cool. And old bind gouache, the old tubes, and something called Shiva. I think that's the cassine. What's there? Schminke and designer gouache and the other brownie. Gouache and cassine. Where's the watercolor? Possibly at the end. Ink, dyes, and watercolor. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's it. I'm sorry. What? I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm so dead. Oh my god, what? Let's spend like 30 pages on acrylics and cassine, but let's have 3 pages on inks, dyes, and watercolors. There you go. Have fun, son. Oh my gosh. What? I can't. There's like literally only this about watercolors. hairbrush. Boring. Hairbrush, or how much paint do you want to sniff in your life? The Business of Illustrating, back in '92. What is this? Oh, nice. That's leftover from the person who owned this book before. They drew that, not me. Huh. Well, another 90s book. I think we are keeping up with the trend that the 90s books are terrible. They really seem to be terrible. What else? What else? Okay, this one is not a 90s book, and it's a really nice book, actually. I bought it because I felt like, even if this is about oil mostly, and I am not an oil painter one bit for now, I felt like it could be relevant for gouache too. So yeah, and it's really, like, pro is that the person has a style of painting that I can sort of relate more. It's more stylized. It's not about, like, I mean, I kind of struggle with everything that's super realistic, because I'm like, well, you can take a picture of it. Especially for oil, like the level of realism you can get from oil, and I'm like, but this I kind of like the blobs of colors. So anyway, that's just my perception of it. And I kind of like that this book was really like about painting every day, but the thing is, it's oil, so I would try to do it with. What this fuckery again? More. I'm rude today. I'm really sorry. Like, I don't mind that this person uses red because it's such a rich, nice color, but where's the bloody magenta again? Why? So anyway, I really like the art in this book. I don't know if I will keep it forever. I might get rid of it because I am trying to focus myself and be less all over the place, and I don't feel like I'm ever gonna paint oil for real, so I might just get rid of that one. I know I swore. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get demonetized. Well, anyway, I'm showing full books. I think I'm gonna get demonetized anyway. I don't think you can make money out of Wow, this is a really sort of low-res cover. Check this out. Look at how blurry that is. And you got all those weird, like, lines in there. But this painter is really, really good. Art challenge, use red, blue, and yellow. Painting with olive oil, and you're never going to be able to mix olive oil and food coloring. You need to go the route of olive oil and like turmeric for the yellow, and wait, what else? What other colors are in the kitchen? Because oil and food coloring was not gonna mix. But I think if you paint with olive oil, well, I don't think olive oil is possibly the most archival of oils. It might go rancid, I don't know, but you could possibly paint with turmeric and right. So this book is rather good, but the thing is, it's one of those books that's printed on like cheaper paper, so it's weird. I feel like I'm leafing through a textbook, you know, for school that the teacher had printed on like inexpensively. Well, palette for this painting has permanent rose. That's nice. Oh, look, that's really interesting. Every painting has a different palette. That's kind of how I work personally. Like, yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's lovely. Assignments. I can't say anything. Those are black and white. What am I supposed to be saying here? Oh my gosh. Sidewalk chalk mixed with olive oil. Yeah, that would work too. You would have white with that. This is a bit nicer, I think, in terms of learning experience, because the fact that every painting has a different starting palette, I think it's interesting to see, like, if there was a cobalt violet in this, and you don't really see any, like, it's been mixed through colors, so I don't know. Makes me kind of want to dig out these colors and mix. Yeah, I mean, this guy is really nice. He's a really good painter, so I made fun of this black and white page because it's kind of a, it's not the fact that it's black and white, it's the fact that it's kind of a bad printing of it. I think. Like, I don't, it's kind of a weird quality print. Anyway. But then again, it's like, I feel like this is, I'm gonna read this and it's not necessarily knowledge that you can translate to your painting, because, I mean, what's the real skill in here is being able to identify what colors you need to paint a scene. And you can do that only through having enough familiarity with your own palette. Yeah, there is a live cat cam. Well, she's alive, she's just sleeping. Kitty cat. Kitty cat, kitty cat. It says, paint this misty forest with only 3 colors: Windsor blue, burnt sienna, and sepia. Work fast and avoid muddy colors. And it sounds interesting, at least, because you really have to work your brain to use this really, really rough black and white photo to paint it in colors. It's a good assignment. I might take him up on that at some point. But yeah, it feels like something you read and then you've read it and you know more about how this painter works, but it's not necessarily all the skills that you can use. Hey Malvina, hi. Hi. You're eating so much chocolate? How is that a bad thing? Enjoying a Pop-Tart, kitty cam it. Oh, a Pop-Tart. I miss Pop-Tarts, guys. Though I kind of wish they would have like double stuffed Pop-Tarts. You know, yeah, they have double stuffed cookies like the Oreos and Fudgios. I kind of want to have double stuffed Pop-Tart. I'm glad you guys like book club. It's a nice change of pace, and it makes me feel better a bit about having all these books. And I also can look at them and decide, like, well, should I refer to this one more? This is beautiful. This is so pretty. Rocks. Wait, good painter. Really skilled guy. Like, you can tell that this is a small print company. It's not one of the big books, and you can tell by the type of paper they use, but at least the colors are really nice still. And the reproduction of the paintings, you can see enough of them to understand. And I'm guessing that this was done on purpose too. So I'm not mad at this book. And that's a good thing, because I have another one from him. What about an Oreo Pop-Tart? I don't know. I'm a Fudgio kind of girl. You know, the one that's like chocolate cookie and the chocolate stuff in the middle? Use Potter's Pink as a primary magenta to mix bright violets. Well, you're not going to be able to, but you can use Potter's Pink as a primary magenta analog, and it's going to make some really nice colors. Toaster strudels were good. Oh, fun thing. I don't know if what's a Fudgio? It's like an Oreo, but instead of having the cookies being this really like black chocolate, they're more brown chocolate. And instead of the vanilla cream thingy in the middle, it's a chocolate cream thingy in the middle. So basically the whole cookie is brown and it's chocolate. And everyone in my family was team chocolate, not team weird vanilla and black cookie. So we had Fudgios. First rule about book club is you don't talk about book club. Oh, cookie and cream Pop-Tarts. Which, funny enough, tastes like Oreos. That doesn't really surprise me. Oh, well, I would... Next time I see some Faggio, Otto, I will take a picture of the ingredients, and if you can eat them, I'm definitely gonna send you some at some point, or bring you some when I go see you, eventually. Are you the type of person who prefers the double stuff or the regular stuff in there? I'm the type of person who would get those if they were to sell like cookie-less only stuff. Well, how did you get so fat? No idea. Oh, it probably has wheat in it. That's a bummer. Nummy minty fudge dipped. Oh, I'm not team mint and chocolate. But yeah, just the funny thing, and my brother is gonna hate me for telling this, but my brother liked his stuff microwaved as a kid, and it was kind of funny. Yes, please. We are team stuff only, all the stuff, not the cookies. But yeah, my brother liked this stuff microwaved, so he would eat his toaster strudels microwaved, his Eggo waffles microwaved, bacon microwave. Nothing was ever crunchy. Everything was mush. I wish they would sell a jar of just the cream in the cookies. Can you imagine? Or a tube. A tube. I think a tube would be even funnier. Like you have tubes like toothpaste, but instead it's like Oreo creme or Faggio creme. If he liked Oreos, he would have probably microwaved them. But I mean, a toaster strudel in a microwave, it's supposed to be flaky, guys. It's supposed to be flaky, not mush. But anyway, that's his thing. I mean, for the toaster strudels and the Eggo waffles, I mean, I didn't have to. Ooh, hey, look, old Winsor Newton again, My Mary, and Black X. So, yeah. The only thing that was really annoying, it was for the bacon. Since my brother really loved the bacon microwave, so it would be really gooey and really soft, and I like my bacon crunchy. But like when my mom would say make a Caesar salad for everyone back then, she would do the bacon the way my brother liked. So we would all have this mushy bacon in our salads, and I was always like, this was supposed to be my favorite part of the the salad, but now it's like the texture is really not there. Although I think I sent you the slanted brush, and I think I made like my like MacGyver versions of the slanted bristle brush based on this book. No, microwave vegan is not good. What did they say to use them for? Hold on, let me check. At least this one is in English, so I could take pictures of the... Okay, it says slant bristle brushes made from natural firm bristles, blah blah blah. Enjoy using them for rich dark colors. He says, as you probably noticed, all of these tools except the rigger are flat brushes. I prefer them because the corner can be used like a pointed round brush, whereas a round brush cannot make a wide stroke to imitate a flat brush stroke. Yeah, I cut the brushes myself. Well, these were like $1 billion each, and I wasn't even sure I was going to use them a lot. So I got some, you know, regular flat bristle brushes, and I chopped them off. Maddie, hi. Are you allergic to quinoa? Can you make like instead of Rice Krispie square, can you make quinoa crispy squares? I'll see if there is more mentions of the flat brushes at some point. But you can sort of see in his work like where he uses them, because you get these really nice that's what I'm looking for, like the brush marks. And he has the magenta in his transparent colors sort of selection, so we can still like him, right? We can still like him. He's still good. Opaque colors include all cadmium colors: Venetian red, yellow ochre, Windsor emerald, cerulean blue, Naples yellow, olive green, and permanent magenta. Permanent magenta, permanent magenta, permanent magenta, permanent magenta. Reflective colors. Huh. I've never heard of colors referred to as reflective colors. And beautiful granulating colors that we like. Ah, manganese blue. Ah, ah, I miss manganese blue. Staining colors, non-staining colors. That's funny. He has a Maymery blue palette, whatever. It says Italian extremely permanent colors, but what I've tried of these colors, they were really, really weak. So I don't know if it's because he had an older selection, and he also had Block X palette, Belgian extremely permanent colors. They should be Belgian extremely pricey colors, and then Winsor and Newton palette. Hold on, let me get back to the reflective colors. Can you guys read the text? Do you want me to read it? I can read it. I can try. It says, reflective colors behave the opposite way of the true transparent pigments. The most transparent colors act like stained glass. They let the light penetrate through the wash and reflect from the paper through the color. Reflective colors let a certain amount of light get through to the surface of the white paper, but they are also capable of reflecting light from the surface of the paint. Basically very opaque colors. But then it also has opaque colors. I am not quite sure whether there's a distinction, but whatever. Who knows? I thought this was a Jackson's catalog. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Well, at least he mentions magenta in there. I'm just glad that Mr. Szabo acknowledges magenta. There is no potter spring in the sedimentary colors. Well, I think it just means that he probably didn't use them. I would hate to have to eat my own food every day. I'm kind of like that. We went out to eat yesterday and the food was rather good, but the place had such a lousy ambience. I don't know if it was popular then, but I know I miss it a lot. I still have this pans you gave me, the one pan, and that's like the only precious manganese blue I have, but it's such a beautiful, unique color. It's such a nice, rich, true cyan. And the granulation is just so lovely. What colors does he have listed for the reflective colors? Hold on. It says cobalt violet. This is cobalt violet, cobalt blue, like this, raw sienna, raw umber, which is not pictured here, viridian green, aurelian yellow, magenta, and cobalt green. Seems to be genuine aurelian too, because it doesn't say U. You also have the aurelian yellow there. I don't get it. This swatch of the raw sienna is so weird. It's all busted up. Dark staining, light staining, non-staining. How is permanent rose a non-staining color? I love how these are non-staining colors and they're all pretty stainy. Except this one. This is, I'm sorry, but this is not a non-staining color in any freaking world. This is such a bad stain. What? Oh, what dominance. Staining dominance. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I don't know if you guys can see here, but on the page that says staining dominance. This says alizarin crimson painted first with phthalo green glazed on top, and when he scrubbed off there was more of the alizarin crimson left, and then the other way around with the green, phthalo green painted first with alizarin crimson glazed on top. When you scrub it off you get the green. And this is a mix of equal amounts of alizarin crimson and phthalo green, and when you scrub it you get the gray. That's interesting, isn't it? I think his opaque colors are referring to maybe more gouache, and his reflective might be some... Yeah, that could be. The reflective were... a lot of them were granulating too. So maybe there's a bit of that in there. While the opaque colors, there's not many that are granulating in there, except perhaps cerulean blue. Yep, that's Scout. The other kitty is Peckle. I will grab her at the end of this live stream. She's sleeping. Yeah, the print on this book is really whack with color accuracy. This is supposed to be magenta. And unless BlockX magenta color is this muted, it's a really weird print. Like, permanent rose is really red. Magenta should be easy to print because that's like the ink itself. Kind of bothered that you call these rules. The illusion of space, graphic symbols. Basic techniques at a glance. I think Otto has a favorite. Hey, Biersch. Biersch. Composition. Well, okay, basic techniques. Wet and blot. Lifting lost and found edges, backgrounds, charging a wash. Brush handle scraping, palette knife, lifting color, At least I am honest about my favoritism. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You can prefer Pecco. They're cats. They don't know. You should hear the stuff we say to them sometimes, just because we can get away with it. It's one of the perks of having cats and not kids. You don't cause permanent damage if you go on a spree of calling them ugly. I mean, I don't think they're ugly, but I can say that to them, and it's not gonna change much of everything to their life. Especially if I say it in the tone of voice that I usually say that they're pretty. Then they're like, oh yay, that's the tone of voice that says that the big human is happy with us. Cool. And I'm saying super mean stuff. I think, I don't know, I'm thinking on the spot here, but looking at all of these things, I think I would possibly really enjoy a book that goes like, okay, watercolor is this, to go over the really technical stuff, but without any visual examples per se. In the sense that, say, because here they're like, oh, you can get this effect with a palette knife, and I'm like, well, no, this guy gets this effect with the palette knife. I mean, perhaps if there was kind of a learn watercolor book that is more like, grab a palette knife and try using it, and put a blob of paint and try making marks with the palette knife, you know, to bring me to a level where I sort of discover stuff on my own rather than read about stuff. Because I feel like the stuff you discover on your own tends to stick with you better than the stuff you learn in books. I still think this is a really gorgeous book because the paintings are really nice, but I'm like, it's the way it's a bit like handwriting. This is the way this guy writes, and if you give me a pencil, I'm not gonna write the same way. Technique-driven exercise. Yeah, I guess that's it. I want to say a special thank you to everyone who is translating me today. But yeah, a technique-driven exercise-based book. Yeah. I think that's a bit what Otto does. Otto is really good with the exercises. At least that wasn't a broken 90s book. When was it made? Feels quite recent. Let's see. Maybe I should sort my book in my shelves, on my shelves through by year. No? You're not like the other books? Is that what's going on? Oh! Mr. Szabo was a Canadian! Well, it was a Hungarian first, but then he immigrated to Canada. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Team Canada. Okay. Oh, 2011. Previous edition, 1995. Well, it's not a derpy... Well, except that the swatches are kind of derpy because they don't really look like the colors are supposed to be. Allergies are kicking my butt this week. Hey, Epic Art! We are doing a book club today. Books by Claudia Nice. Hold on. Yeah, it's pretty hot. It was less hot last week for us, but it's gonna be really hot next week. And today is also really freaking hot, so I wonder if the heat doesn't make my seasonal allergies worse. Like my throat is really busted up. And it kind of reminded me of the really bad allergic reactions that Otto had not too long ago. And I was like, oh no, if I start being really sick. Ah, that's okay, Otto. I hope your back feels better soon. That's really not cool. Also, I think I'm gonna start doing the same exercises you do on my own, if you are okay with that, of course. Because I find them really inspiring. Hold on, me again. And I think that might help me sort of learn more about watercolor. Okay, let's grab perhaps one last book or two before I have to end today's book club edition. Because my voice is getting all weird. What should I grab? Let's see this one. And yeah, this one. I know that Steve Mitchell mentioned this one not too long ago. Hold on, me again. Up. How to make a watercolor paint itself. Oh, stupid cable. You had, you know, the coughing and the being sick and the throat pain and all of that, which was really aggravated by your allergies. Okay, so this is one of those books, I know Steve mentioned it, and it's really one that I love looking at because the paintings and the textures and all of that is really, really, really striking. But I feel like to be able to work as freely as this artist does, this artist is a woman named Nita Engel, and you kind of need a lot of space. You kind of need your own studio, like the the other books we checked. It was like, you need your own personal space. I'm like, yeah, sure, because we're in an economy where everyone has a house, of course, and spare rooms to just have studios in them, of course. What else? Anyway, and yeah, the way this artist works is super interesting. It's really, really creative, but it feels like you need a space where you can, you know, like drip paint on the floor and it's not that bad, and where you can put large paper and have all sort of setups. And that's really not, like, my workspace is not much larger than this book, so unless I make the same thing but in super tiny versions, which will not really render as good. But it really takes advantage of the characteristics of watercolor, which is what I really like. So I was really interested by this book, but then like I what's the word? There's a word for it. You know, when you're super excited and psyched for something and you get into it and you sort of womp 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 and are bummed out by it in the end. So yeah, like not that many tools if you consider like brushes, but not a zillion brushes. Couple of special bottles and spray bottles and things. The part that really made me laugh was when she shows how she staples her paper. And it's like a whole ordeal. But it's a really creative system. Like she sprays color on the paper with a bottle and then sprays and moves it to have some movement in there. And I think that's super, super inspiring, but it's just, where is one supposed to work that big? If I knew more people locally, perhaps we could see about, you know, renting studio space together, like as a bunch of people. You rent an apartment and you sort of have a bit more space, but as it is, first of all, I don't have the money for that, and I don't have many artist friends here in Montreal. But yeah, it's a really interesting book, and I find it fascinating because you can really see how the paint like works, and there are good tips in there, like how to use things like splatter masking fluid and how to create certain shapes and all of that. So I really like this book. It's kind of one of those books, you know, you sort of keep for the future in the hopes that at some point you might be able to experiment on that same scale. But it's a really, really interesting way to work, and I feel like it really makes the best of watercolor. Come to my home studio. I want to! You know the part where I said that I don't have many money? I'm working on this! Can you imagine, like, if Otto and I shared a studio space? I think it would be, you know, like this GIF, whatever, where you have Arnold and the other guy, and they do the, like, yeah, the handshake, and then there's a nuclear explosion. I think it would be a similar kind of collaboration. It would be like powers, and we would have like all the colors in the world with all the Daniel Smith and Renaissance and schminke paints, and I'm making weird gestures with my arms. But yeah, to have a bunch of artist friends to rent the space, and to have access to a space that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. This is not blood, this is ink, by the way. I'm clumsy, but this is printer ink from earlier. Really looks like I nicked my finger. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful work. It's really lovely. It's really fun to see her work because you feel like this is super expressive and fun to be splattering paint and spraying and just whacking a brush on stuff, and from that you build a whole scene. I feel like I could, you know, use these skills. Like I could splatter brushes and all of that and create my own stuff. Oh no, we could, if I were to share with Otto, it would be just the two of us. And yeah, I mean, it would be kind of a, that's the downside of renting space with people. You gotta find the people that match with you. If there are anything like the artisty people in plastic arts at school, I would not get along well with them. But yeah, I mean, just to have the conjoined resources of Otto and I together, can you imagine? It's just the empty Windex bottle, I think, because I think it has a really peculiar spray. It would be really good for spatters, I think, like to have like all kinds of size of droplets on there, rather than one size of droplets. No, if she was to add actual Windex into the painting, I would be really unhappy with that. Because I'd be, this is just like the bleach thing. You're messing up with your paints. That's, anyway, it's really creative and fun. And sort of tips like when you print stuff up and you have all these kinds of weird, I've seen that happen a lot. If you guys mold paint, you know, when you remove the molder after a session, it often creates this kind of pattern on it. So yeah, I feel like this is a, if you are looking into really textual and more expressive work, this is a really nice recommendation. Because it's not about mixed mediaing with your paint, it's about being super creative with the way you make marks with the paint, and that doesn't take away from the watercolor one bit. Windex and bleach are for drinking, not for painting. I think perhaps you had a bit too much of that to drink. or you just saw Stranger Things, the latest season. You finished it, by the way. I'm not necessarily happy with it. Oh no, soap bubbles! No! See, that's not... Yeah, plus it's that kind of texture that really creeps me out. Ugh. Alright, done. And last book for today, I think we're gonna try and hopefully finish on a really... That's promising, but it's Color Choices, Making Color Sense Out of Color Theory by Stephen Quiller. I think this guy is really well known for his work with colors and palettes and all of that. What bleach thing? One of the books I looked at earlier was having one of their techniques to paint the whole surface with ink and then use bleach to lighten some areas and to paint over these areas. And I was saying that I don't really like adding another chemical into the mix. Like, I don't mind certain things like salt, things like distilled water, regular water, all of that. But I feel weird when you start adding in chemical substances in there, because there's no way to know how it will react on the long term. My voice is pretty shot, but let's do this. I think I got this one because Otto had mentioned it to me. Otto says that she learned most of her color theory from him. It doesn't show in the printing, but his primary red color is Permanent Rose, which is decidedly a magenta-ish color. The magenta one is really purpley. That would be like a PR 122 kind of deal. But Permanent Rose is a really nice pink color. His DVDs are better than his books. Aww. Oh, hold on. This is cool. The Quiller wheel. Except for the fact that, again, it printed weird, because this is not magenta, this is not Permanent Rose color at all. Exactly. Oh, Grouchy, you said it the best. Grouchy. That's what I do. Flip through a book looking at the pictures. But yeah, Grouchy says, when you start adding bleach and different types of solvents to your paints, you always risk breaking down the gum arabic and the pigments. There's also, and well, it's unknown for us because, well, unless I'm mistaken, none of us are scientists, but there's always a risk that whatever you add into the paint could react with the pigment itself. Like there was a thing that said that if you have aluminum and certain earth oxides, I don't remember which one, and aluminum is available as a powder for silver paint. If you have those two together and they're exposed to enough heat, they can become termite or something like. And I was really terrified of that, because imagine you have a painting on the wall and the sun hits it and it bursts into flame and it's like unextinguishable. Anyway, I'm I'm definitely overreacting, but still, you never know. Like if you had bleach and then you had a certain pigment, it could have a chemical reaction, and it could like mess up the rest of the painting, or burn a hole in the paper, or you know, flammable art. Yeah. I really need to read this more thoroughly. Seems to be quite nice, and I mean I love the paintings in there. I will. That's kind of weird because the books are in all languages, but I will possibly go through them again at the end, like show them and title and author them. And if I remember, I can go back and write it down in the description. But otherwise, I'm just gonna do a roundup at the end. I mean, yeah, I think that's one of the things I saw. I think I have one DVD from him, and it's acrylic. But I really like the way he works, his color palettes, because it's not super different. It's not the same, like trees are greens and sky is gray and you know, water is blue. There's a lot of work in the color ambience and all of that. So I think that's really inspiring and fun. He's not afraid to just go for a color scheme, something that doesn't make sense. It's still gonna be pretty, you know. It's a very inspiring book. Like you leaf through it and you feel like you want to go paint. And I think that's pretty cool. What was that one? Cassine and acrylic. I love these trees. It reminds me a bit of the old fairy tales book. The previous one, this one, how to make watercolor, sorry, how to make a watercolor paint itself by Nita Engel. Aha, Danny's being all British. That's really cool. Acrylic and cassine. Oddly enough, casein is probably what I'm allergic to in dairy products. I better really not eat that paint. Alright, so let's round it up. Last one we saw was Color Choices, Making Color Sense Out of Color Theory by Stephen Quiller. I am pretty sure I got this one from Amazon, so it's a recent book. Then there was How to Make a Watercolor Paint Itself by Nita Engel. That is also a recent book and I got from Amazon as well. Then we have this Zoltan Szabó's 70 favorite watercolor techniques. This one is by Northlight Classics. I'm pretty sure I got it from Amazon as well. And yeah. Okay, then I have Daily Painting by Carol Marine. Also a recent book that I got from Amazon. I know they're bad, but then we then we had one of the 90s book, the silly 90s book, the Illustrator's Bible. This one I got used, so I really don't know where you can find it, but yeah, it's kind of a weird one anyway. Then a book in French, which is called Fleurs à l'aquarelle, so that's basically flowers in watercolor. It says original title in English language, Basic Flower Painting Techniques in Watercolor by Rachel Rubin Wolfe. This was a hand-me-down book, so. Right, then I have Les Secrets de l'Aquarelle, also in French. It says prepared by David Lewis. Let's see. The original title, Watercolor Painting Techniques by David Lewis. Oh my gosh, Otto, you don't have to do all this if your back hurt, that's fine. But thank you so much. This one is also in French. It says L'aquarelle, savoir la composer et la peindre. It's by Angela Gare. I think this is another one of the weird 90s one. Hold on, let's see if it says what the original title in English was. Original title, it says The Watercolor Painter's Question and Answer Book. This one is Color Manual for Artists by Arthur L. Guptill. It's a really old one and it's possibly not really up to date, so I don't know if I would recommend it, but that's what it is. Then we have Johannes Itten's The Elements of Color, also an old book, also might not be super relevant today because it doesn't address magenta at all. Then we have Painting Little Landscapes by Zoltan Sabo. This one was really nice. It's quite a recent one. I think I got it off of Amazon, I think. You can also check his website, zoltansabo.com, so ZOLTANSZABO.com. He sells books and brushes and stuff over there. Well, his family. Oh my gosh, Otto, you're being so awesome with the links in the chat. Good grief. This one is in French. It's by Stan Smith. In French it says Aquarelle toutes les techniques, but I think we had the English title in there too, somewhere. Original title in English, The Complete Watercolor Course. Only 2 left. That was a lot of book, guys. Okay, this one it says Plaisir de peindre à l'aquarelle, but I don't think this one has a single author, or it's one of those collective books. So it was kind of the one, you know, that we weren't really impressed by. So and finally, the first book we looked at. In French, it's called Le Grand Livre de la Peinture à l'Aquarelle. It was originally made in Spanish, so I don't know how helpful that might be. Hold on. Where is it? Original title. El Gran Libro de la Acuarela by Jose M. Paramon. Probably has an English version, like The Great Book of Watercolor Painting or something. But that was the one with, let's finish on this. Let's finish on the best page of this book. Where is it? There it is. There we go. There. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Alright, so that was today's edition of book club. If you guys enjoy book club, I can do that perhaps more often, not every week, but every once in a while we could do a book club edition and we can showcase books and stuff. Otherwise, we have a Discord channel where you can come and join us and chat about just about everything. between live streams. It's basically a big app for chatting, and there are channels and like it's sort of themes separated by theme. One would be painting, the other one can be pictures of your pets. The link is in the description. You basically have to make an account, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, that's pretty fun. And book club would be awesome. Oh, cool. We will do this again, for sure. For sure. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to get books. No, I'm gonna have to sort my books, and that's also a good way for me to clear the books that are relatively useless to me now. But anyway, thank you very much. Oh, hold on. I told you guys I would get Pickle. I mean, this is gonna be like the extra content for those who stay. A sneak peek at Pickle the cat. If I can. Alright, let me get the kitty. Kitty! Hello! Hello, Pickle! Hello, Minnie! You found the rubber band, didn't you? She likes to eat those. So I try to not have any. Yeah, both my cats are girls. They're sisters, technically. I say technically because they're the type of sisters that don't really like one another. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. You want to chew that rubber band, right? Mom, stop teasing me. Elevator butt. Oh! You want to say hi? Say hi. Oh my gosh. That was a... Alright, well, she rubbed herself all over the mic now. Anyway. Tiens ma chute. Tiens ma chute. Look at stress. Look at stress, mon chat. Un peu de fesses. Allez, flop. C'est bon. C'est bon ça. Flop. C'est parfait. C'est parfait. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry about the earphones. It's Pickle's fault. It's Pickle's fault. You wanna... I can put the blame on her for this one. She's purring so loud. You're so happy. You're so happy. you guys hear the purring? Get my bed. Get my bed. ASMR purr. Yeah, ronronnement is the French word for purr, purring. Oh, good night, Juva. Bonne chance avec la tempête. Aw, you're so pretty. I try to always have the cat cam. It really depends if any cat is sleeping in the studio. So yeah, this one is Speckle, the one here, and this one here is Scout. They're sisters, they are about 8 years old. They're shedding like crazy. Whenever I have a cat in the studio when I'm live streaming, I have a cat cam. That's how I roll. It is Caturday live stream, girl. How is it Caturday live stream if I don't have a cat somewhere? Hmm? Hmm? Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Rubbing the chin is A+, guys. Well, a golden retriever is about the same size as 10 cats. So I guess that's fair. Alright, so I guess that's it for today. Do you have any parting words to share with us, baby cat? Ostrich. So that's it for us. Thank you very much for staying. And she's really flat, you guys. It's really flat, look at that. A puddle of kitty. And have a great weekend. I hope it's not too hot where you live, and if it's super hot, well, good luck. It's gonna be hot here, so I'm with you in the heat. And have a great weekend, and a great big thank you to Otto for her awesome moderating job. So, bye.